Hello everyone. In today's build, we are going to be creating a Nightblade that can move at the speed cap while in stealth. Now, if you guys don't know, the speed cap for this game is 100% or double the base movement speed. And you can easily achieve speed cap on a lot of different medium armor builds by sprinting. However, you can't sprint while you're in stealth. So the question is, can we achieve the 100% speed cap on a Nightblade build in stealth? And if we have a build that can do this, what's it going to be good for? Well, I think you guys can see from the footage here, it is darn good at node farming, and on top of it, a build like this would be fantastic at thieving as well. So, without further ado, guys, we have put together a Nightblade build that is at the speed cap of 100% bonus movement speed and able to perma-cloak the entire time. Not only that, but this build is very flexible and you can play it as either Magicka or Stamina to fit whatever preferred playstyle you want to go for. I hope that you guys enjoy this video, and I hope that you guys enjoy checking out this spec and maybe get some cool ideas from it. So let's jump right into it. So, to begin, we are an orc on this spec. Your racial choice is honestly not important for this build. There's no race that will give you a base increase to movement speed while in stealth, and that's kind of the goal of this build. Now, you can go with something like Orc or something like Wood Elf because they both offer a 10% movement speed bonus. The Wood Elf one does apply to stealth but requires you to dodge roll, and that's not something we really want to do on this build, just in the interest of moving as quickly as possible. Rolling is actually going to slow us down, so that's why I just went with Orc, because we do get the sprint speed bonus on Orc, and that means that on Orc we're going to be at speed cap just with sprint and no movement speed bonus up. So that's pretty cool too. But like I said, your race choice is not important because we're going for that max speed in stealth. Now, taking a look at our stat page, guys, we've got pretty decent stats. We are rocking a stamina build for this spec. Now, this doesn't have to be a stamina build. It's actually quite flexible, and we'll show you guys that when we get to the gear. But the important stats that we want to look at here are the Magicka recovery, and that's pretty much it. Our Magicka recovery needs to be around 2,000 on this build. And the reason I say we need 2k Magicka recovery is simply because that is what we're going to need to perma-cloak. Now, if we were in light armor, we can get away with a little bit less recovery, but if you want to perma-cloak and only use the occasional potion, you need to have at least 2,000 Magicka recovery. You can push your recovery higher on this build if you want, quite easily, and it just means that you won't have to use any Magicka potions while you use this spec. So if you guys want to spend absolutely nothing while farming on this build, push even higher recovery by changing out some of your glyphs on your jewelry. Now, the weapon damage on this build is actually pretty sweet, and I thought I would include some offensive stats on this spec simply because we are going to be farming nodes. We're not going to want to fight things if we can help it, but if we do have to fight something, we'll at least be able to kill them very quickly. 4k weapon damage, 42% crit, 30k stam. Not the crazy highest stats in the world, but it's going to be exactly what we need for a build like this. All we need to be able to do is quickly and efficiently bring down a mob, and this should be easily enough for you to kill a mob within 1 or 2 cancel combos. And of course, our resistances, physical resist, not important for this spec. Now, taking a look at the Mundus we're using, we of course have the Steed Mundus, and this is very important. We got to stack as much movement speed as possible for stealth, and the Steed is going to give us a base of 10%, and we are rocking full Divines to bring that up to 15%. So a lot of speed coming from this Steed here. And then we are a vampire as well. Now, vampirism is optional. You don't need to be a vampire, but I chose it because it gives us 10% more Magicka recovery in the passives. And that ultimately is going to help by just giving us higher mag sustain on this build, and that's going to be more cloak up time. So if you're struggling for mag sustain, this is a way that you can put a little bit more on your build as well. And then finally, for the drink that we're using, we have got increased Magicka and stamina recovery. The stamina recovery is pretty negligible. You don't really need that, but that Magicka recovery is very important. So I'd highly recommend that you run any food that gives you Magicka recovery, and then whatever else you're looking for, or even just Magicka recovery by itself is totally fine, because ideally, you're not going to be doing any combat on this spec. You're just going to be running around farming the stuff you're looking for. So the Magicka recovery is going to be your most important stat for that reason. And the potion that we use also reflects the fact that we are focusing on Magicka recovery. You just want to use regular Magicka potions here. I'm on the PTS, so I actually just have Tri-Restoration potions, but when you're playing this in the open world, the regular Magicka potions are very cheap, just a few gold each, and you'll easily be able to sustain a high cloak uptime with them. Now, the potions are not necessary if you change your jewelry glyphs to Magicka recovery, but that's totally up to the user, and we'll get into that when we check the gear out a little bit more. So we're going to start at the top of the gear here. We're going to look at the monster set we're running, and I actually have Shadowrend plus Chokethorn, and this is both 2 times Magicka recovery. All we need for this build, man, more Magicka recovery. The next set that we have is Shackle Breaker. I chose this set simply because it's flexible for both a stamina and Magicka build, so if you wanted to do this on Stam or Meg, this is a great base set to use regardless. And then, of course, Shackle Breaker is going to give us the max stat and both of our recoveries. The max Magicka it gives us means that we don't have to invest anything past the Shackle Breaker set in max Magicka. As long as we have 2k recovery, we have a big enough pool with just the Shackle Breaker set and we'll be totally fine. And then, of course, all the gear, like I had mentioned, is full divines. Very important, the full combination of divines here is going to be 5% additional movement speed, so you do want to go for that divines here. And then the next set that we're wearing is the Jailbreaker set. And this is going to give us Minor Expedition. Very important that we have a passive Minor Expedition buff. We are going to get it from this set, and it's great that we chose Jailbreaker because we don't have to do anything to have that Minor Expedition. It's just a flat 10% movement speed, and that's what we're looking for. It gives us max stam and stamina recovery, which is not really important. The Magicka recovery would be better, but that Minor Expedition is exactly why we're using this set. And the jewelry traits, of course, are full swift for an 18% bonus to our movement speed. So if we tally up all the movement speed bonuses that we have on this build, we actually get to exactly 100% bonus movement speed in stealth. So we've got 18% coming from swift, plus the 2% coming from the wind running in the champion tree. So we got 20% movement speed from that. Major and minor expedition together are going to be 40%, so that brings us up to 60% movement speed. Our Steed Mundus is going to be an additional 15% movement speed, so that's going to bring us up to 75% movement speed. And then finally, guys, we have got Concealed Weapon on our back bar for the last 25%. So we actually managed to achieve speed cap in stealth on this build, and it's exactly at speed cap, so you'd have to fully gold this build out to get it up to 100% movement speed. I know that's not really realistic, but you guys can guarantee yourself around 95% if you just purple the build. So there you go. Really huge movement speed stacking, and that is where all of it is coming from. Now, the enchants on the jewelry, I went with full weapon damage. Like I said, if you want to perma-cloak without using any potions, go for Magicka recovery glyphs here, and you'll be able to do that. And then the weapons, guys, I just have a standard infused bow with the weapon spell damage enchant, Nirnhoned Greatsword. Not really important outside of combat, and this is just to help us burst stuff down, giving us a nice bow into Greatsword combo if we have to kill something. Now, I have gone over the gear for you guys, but there is something that I really wanted to note about this build. The first big thing that I want to say is that I have full gold here, and that's not really realistic for a farming build because you're going to spend a lot of money golding out a build like this. Just in the interest of reaching speed cap, I was on the PTS, so I put the gold build together. And the second thing I want to mention is that you don't need to run the Jailbreaker jewelry as swift. I mean, you're going to go try to farm the Jailbreaker, and it's a medium armor set, so you'll likely get a set of medium armor Jailbreaker, and then you can actually just use whatever set you have that maybe already has swift jewelry. If you have any existing swift jewelry, this is a fantastic place to actually use it. It doesn't even matter if it's from a Magicka set, whatever. As long as you already have the swift jewelry, you can just put it on this build, and it's going to function fantastically for what you want this build to do. So don't even feel like you need to have the second 5-piece in there at all. If you can just farm a Jailbreaker set, put on some Magicka recovery monster helms, and then find some swift jewelry, you're totally set to go, and you can enjoy the finer aspects of this build right off the bat without having to break your back at all to get this thing together. So, the skills on this build, guys. Our front bar is not important. If you're a Magicka or stamina build, you're just going to put your offensive stuff on your front bar. Now, your back bar is the important one. This is the bar that you want to slot concealed weapon, you want to slot your cloak, and you want to slot retreating maneuver. These are the only 3 skills you need on this build. Retreating maneuver, of course, a very easy skill to get. As soon as you enter PvP and do the beginner quest, you unlock retreating maneuver. You don't have to fight or kill anything, so everyone gets access to this at level 10. Concealed weapon is one of the first abilities that you unlock as a Nightblade, as well as shadowy disguise, so everyone will get access to these very, very early on. Concealed weapon, of course, is important for that movement speed bonus, like we said. You have to take the Magicka Morph here, regardless if you go stamina build or not. You want to get that movement speed bonus. And then the cloak, of course, is the only access to invisibility for us on the Nightblade. Spammable invisibility, this is going to give us that massive speed bonus. And for the champion points, also not crazy important for this build because we're not going to be doing a ton of combat, but there are some champion points that you do want to make sure that you have. The first thing I'm going to say is points in Arcanist to make sure that you get more Magicka recovery. Very important, the only important stat for this build, essentially. And then finally, you want to have at least 120 points in the Lover Tree so you can get the Wind Running passive for that final 2% movement speed. It's not a huge amount, but trust me, every little bit goes towards it, and it's quite easy to get the Wind Running passive if you're already stacking High Arcanist anyway. And of course, stacking up to Wind Running will also give you the Master Gatherer passive as well as Plentiful Harvest, both yet again very important for node gathering. You want to make sure that you have the reduced gathering time. That's a huge deal for farming, and the 10% chance for the double yield is just going to give you more loot, so it's going to help you out in the end. And the rest of your champion points, of course, you can model them after a damage build. Pretty much you just want to model your champion points to deal damage to the mobs. I, of course, threw some pretty PvP-focused CP on, but that's not really what you want to run on this. Doesn't really matter. We went over the important stats for this build. So there you go, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it helps you guys farm out some mad gold. I mean, I had done lots of node farming in the past, but never on a spec like this, and once I tried it with this build, honestly, it was like revolutionary. I was almost having too much fun picking up nodes, so I would highly recommend that you guys try out something like this. It's very easy to put together. You can use whatever gear you have your hands on to kind of mismatch the build together. All you have to do is make sure you get that prisoner set. So if you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button. I stream live on Twitch, so if you guys want to catch live gameplay from me or just come chat, you guys can check out my Twitch channel. I also feature community content, so if you guys want to send in your top 5 PvP battles or even a build to be featured on the channel, you guys can send that in to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. And finally, guys, we are sponsored by What the Fast. They're a VPN for gamers. They give me better ping to ESO, and they're free to try for the first 14 days. No credit card to sign up in the link in the description below. Thank you guys again for watching, and I hope to see you next time.